Hey guys, Kelsey here from roughandtumblefarmhouse.com, and today I'm going to show you how to poach eggs, which is way simpler than it sounds, and how to make Eggs Benedict from scratch. Now, when I decided to make this Eggs Benedict breakfast, it's because I ended up with some really good asparagus, and I thought, man, I'd love to have some hollandaise sauce on that, and I was like, ooh, I'd also like to have some Eggs Benedict. And so I made the whole thing from scratch the day of. The English muffins, the hollandaise sauce, the whole shebang. But if you're gonna do this, I really recommend making some stuff ahead of time. So I will share below a link to the sourdough English muffin recipe. I will include in the blog post, which I'll also link to below, a link to the hollandaise sauce recipe. And so I would definitely make those two things ahead of time just to save yourself a little bit of craziness. Because if you have the hollandaise sauce made and you have your English muffins already made, then really it's a pretty quick breakfast to whip together. But I'll show you here the process. If you've woken up and you decided, I want to make Eggs Benedict today, you can do it all from scratch. Also, I'll put a little note here on the video that says where you can skip ahead to if all you really want to know is how to poach an egg, because we're going to cover that as part of the Eggs Benedict making process. So the first thing that you need to do is make sure you get your English muffins going, because these take a little while to cook, and so you want to have these cooking nice and low and slow. This is a recipe that I typically use from Farmhouse on Boone. It's a sourdough recipe, so you got to start the night before. So again, make these in advance if at all possible. Next, if you do want to have some asparagus with it, it's a good idea to get that prepped. I bake this at 400 for about 15 minutes. Just toss in olive oil, a little salt and pepper. Next thing you want to do is get your water ready for poaching. You want it to be just shy of boiling. So here you can see it's not totally boiling, but you're getting those little air bubbles kind of coming up to the surface. To make our hollandaise sauce, a blender is ideal. And here I have a half teaspoon salt, a pinch of mustard, tablespoon of lemon juice, and a little bit of dill. Dill is optional, but I like the dill flavor. Next thing we need to add is some egg yolk. We're going to be adding in 3 egg yolks. And after that, we are going to blend that all up. And to that, we are going to be adding 1 whole stick, 8 tablespoons of butter. So you need to melt the butter first, stove or microwave, and then pour it in slowly while the blender is stirring. It's basically the same as making a mayo. At the same time, you need to have your ham cooking, or your meat of choice, on the stove. Then to our water, we add a teaspoon of salt and a teaspoon of white vinegar per inch of water you're using. So I'm using about 3 inches of water here for poaching my eggs. Now to poach the eggs, you first crack it into a bowl and then use the bowl to gently slip it into the water. And then you use a slotted spoon to kind of scoop the egg whites back on top of the egg. And I'll show you a couple of them here. I found that these little bowls of my children's, their snack bowls, work really well because they're very small and lightweight, so it's easy to just kind of gently let it slip into the water. And so once you've got, it looks kind of like a ghost egg floating around in there, you just again really gently kind of scoop the whites back up onto the yolk. And then I will go over here in just a second, you'll see, to the previous one I started, just to make sure it's not sticking to the bottom. That was the only one that got a little bit stuck, and the rest didn't have that issue. But again, I'm being very, very gentle to make sure I'm not breaking the yolks. So there you can see it's stuck just a teeny bit, but it comes loose pretty easily. So I do throw another egg in the water here, and then you want to cook them for about 3 to 5 minutes, and then once they float, they are for sure done. If you want them to be even a little more tender in the middle, you can take them out earlier, but you just scoop it on out, and there I kind of poked the middle to see if it was about the doneness I wanted. I didn't want it to be completely soupy, but just with a nice good kind of runny yolk in there. And I'm just going to set it right on top of my ham, which is already on top of the English muffin. So again, this all happens kind of quick. It's almost like making an English breakfast. Everything kind of has to be done at the exact same time. So I just set those on there and then add a little bit of salt and pepper. And then to that, we are going to add our hollandaise sauce. And you will want to keep this warm if it's kind of taking you a little bit of time, but you can always reheat it on the stovetop if you want. Just drizzle that delicious buttery goodness over top, and you have made Eggs Benedict and poached eggs. Super fancy looking, amazingly delicious, definitely not very good for you, but just wonderful, fill you up, taste wonderful breakfast. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions or any tips for other viewers, please leave them below in the comments. We'll see you here next week for more farming, family food, and fortitude here at our rough and tumble farmhouse.